Hi, my name is Kenton and I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about how I was introduced into solar and how the more that I looked into it, quite frankly, the more questions and doubts that I had. But my goal is to take you along for the journey and to help you think it through and to evaluate it for yourself. I'll tell you right away that I'm not an electrician. So investigating this was a whole new endeavor for me once I decided to dig into it. Solar panels have long seemed like a great idea, at least in theory. But has the technology come far enough yet? And are they remotely affordable? Or are they just something that people stick on their roof to demonstrate their concern for the environment? The spark that really ignited my journey happened in July of 2021, when my parents were looking at a proposal to put solar panels on their own house. They shared their proposal and diagram with me, and suddenly I had more and more questions. Without realizing it, my natural curiosity led me to really authentically question solar, as I became the Solar Skeptic. Once my parents received their estimate, my dad shared it with me to look over, and with his permission I wanted to highlight it here as it was my first exposure to the solar industry. The first thing that a lot of people will notice from this proposal is that their roof can easily fit more solar panels on it. So why did the contractor stop at that number of panels? Well, at the contractor's request, my dad would have provided them with his electricity statements to show his usage over the past 12 months, a necessity. Based on his average usage over the year, the company designed a system that produced about 110% of the power that he consumed. This is not the company's decision. They're acting on regulations from the energy company in order to feed excess energy into the grid. We can also see that in his 18-panel system, each panel creates 385 watts. What does this mean? Well, it means that in optimal solar conditions from the sun, this is how much the panel will generate in an hour. It's also important to note here that these panels are drawn onto the southern part of his roof, which will maximize their exposure to the sun year-round. We also see the total size of his system, 6.93 kilowatts, and that the company estimates that it will generate 8,275 kilowatt hours over the course of a year. Next, we can see a visual of what my parents' historical electricity usage has been, overlapped with what their estimated production on their solar panels will be moving forward. This visual helps them to see when to expect a boost to their solar generated power and when it will really drop off. But there isn't anything too surprising here. Next, we see how their solar panels help mitigate energy costs that are likely to continue to rise over the coming years with an estimated 30-year projection. The point that they're trying to make here is that yes, the system will be a large investment, but over time, it could also help to be a safeguard and provide a buffer against rising energy costs. Next, we see the potentially shocking cost of the solar system, just under $24,000. For a solar system just under 7 kilowatts in size. They also have a note on here that there could be an additional fee of up to $3,500 if it's determined that their current electrical panel would need to be upgraded. Fortunately, they already have a new sub-panel wired in, but otherwise that fee could have applied to their house built in 1975. They also finished off their proposal with a payment schedule, a notice of a $5,000 federal grant that was available at the time to my parents, and a finance option if that was desirable. So after reviewing the proposal, I admit that it all looked pretty intriguing, and sure, it would at least give some help with their electricity bills, especially during the summer. But with all the answers that it gave, it led to a surprising amount of questions and doubt. Will it improve the value of their home if they're needing to relocate in the future? Maybe. But even if it did, was it the best investment for a couple in their 80s? But even on a practical level, if they wanted to do it to help with their monthly electricity usage, would the credit that they earned through the solar panels be noticed enough throughout the year? Even though I had way more questions than answers, I saw enough to become curious, even if I was still very skeptical. So I kept thinking it over and looking into it as I thought about the possibility for my own house. I approached about 5 solar panel contractors in my local area to start getting quotes and hammer them with questions, One company stood out because they were highly rated. Solar panels is one of the main things they focused on. I liked their partners that they listed, and they had a salesperson give me some one-on-one time via Zoom to answer all my questions and teach me whatever I wanted to know. They also had someone come out with a drone and take a picture of my roof so they could map the solar panels onto it and come up with a plan. There was still more to learn and upcoming decisions to make, but I really wanted to know the big three. How big could my system be, as in how many panels and wattage, how much could it produce, and how much would it cost? I was very curious to see their proposal, which you can see here. They proposed a 9.35 kilowatt system that was estimated to produce 10,830 kilowatts annually. Even with all of this new information and the promise that it would help reduce my electricity usage from the grid and reliance on it, I was still skeptical. I had a lot of real-world questions like, would it actually generate power throughout the whole year or just for a few months in the summer? Do I have to change utility providers? Are the panels really durable enough for the extreme changes of Canadian weather? Do I need to clear snow off of them in the winter? What is their lifespan, and how long are they expected to produce electricity for? What is warranted on a project like this? How long do they take to pay for themselves, or is that even realistic? If you end up earning credit towards your electricity bill, do they only apply towards the electricity portion of your bill, or can they be used towards all the other fees like transmission, distribution, municipal, etc.? Are there loans or grants available to me? What about carbon credits? How do they apply here, or is that only for big industry? I had so many questions, and I'll be answering all of them and more in the videos that follow. But at the end of the day, we decided to go ahead with it, and we've been living with our solar system for the past year. Hi, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to explain our reasons for why we went ahead and invested in our solar panel system. After all, I want to show all of you solar skeptics out there what I've experienced and how I've benefited from this. Hopefully you can see the potential as well. At the end of the last video, I revealed that despite the questions we had about solar panels, we decided that we had enough information to move forward with them. So how were we convinced, and why did we do it? All of us are going to have some similar reasons that still feel a little different due to the weight and importance that we give each of these priorities. It could be reducing our collective environmental impact and carbon footprint. It could be hoping to see immediate impact on your electricity bills. It could be safeguarding against continued rises in our future electricity costs. It could be to help the resale value of your house or property with something more and more people are looking for. It could be to help charge your current or future electric vehicle. Or it could be to help reduce or end your reliance on the electricity grid, which would take more than what my system is currently set up to do. All of these are common and valid reasons, but for the cost savings on the overall system that were available to us at the time, as well as the potential monetary and environmental returns in the future, all of those were enough to make the decision to move forward much easier. So let's get into the 6 reasons that made us feel ready to move ahead. These reasons were grants available, roof conditions, rising prices, no limits on returns, microgeneration, and our greener outlook. The first one is grants. I'm not gonna lie, this was a huge catalyst for us in deciding to go ahead with the proposed plan. We were able to qualify for 2 grants, which were both a huge help with the installation of our solar panels. One grant was a $5,000 grant from the Government of Canada called the Canada Greener Homes Grant. This grant required a pre and post retrofit enter guide evaluation, which we paid for before each inspection was completed. We were then reimbursed for most of it. The audit ensured that we qualified for the federal grant, but it also provided an opportunity to apply for other grants if we were looking to make more energy efficient upgrades at the time. The other grant was a local grant from the City of Edmonton for $3,400 of a possible $4,000 grant through Edmonton's Solar Rebate Grant. This was based on the size of our system, and our installation company was very helpful by handling this grant on their own and deducted it from our bill. But I know some companies will have the client handle this on their own. Regardless of where you live, look into federal, provincial or state, and municipal or local grants on their respective websites, or by contacting representatives who can answer your questions. When grants are available, ask what their parameters are. Is it a time limit? Maybe you have to complete your system and apply for them by a certain date or by the end of the year in some cases. Or is it a fund where it continues until the allocated money is used up? For us specifically, we realized that we were going to qualify for $8,400 in grants, covering about 40% of our install price. This was a huge incentive and definitely encouraged us to move forward with the whole thing. The second reason that we had was our roof. In some ways, it feels like it has little to do with solar panels themselves, and yet it's obviously important for two reasons. Number one, our roof was ready and we had space for panels. And number two, that space was perfectly south facing. The shingles these panels would sit on were about 5.5 years old at the time of install. If you know that your current roof is nearing the end of its lifespan, or that it's just needing attention, then you clearly want to address this before you start having solar panels installed onto it. A good solar panel contractor will be asking you about this and ensuring your roof is ready, but this is one area that you can help them out by planning ahead. If you feel qualified to evaluate for yourself, but you aren't able or eager to get up on your roof, I highly recommend buying a drone. I bought a DJI Mini 2. This was such a great starter drone that could record 4K video at 30 frames per second and take high resolution photos, all from the comfort and safety of the ground. I used it for inspecting my roof and panels post-installation, but I plan to talk about that a little bit more in a future video. Our third one was rising prices. We had concern over the rising energy prices and protecting our family. Have you been looking at your electricity bill lately? Is it going up or down? It's crazy how much ours has gone up over the past 5 to 10 years. I'm not going to go into depth here, but yeah, I've definitely been saving money on our electricity bill, no question. But it's very important to state something here that I believe is a common misconception. By default, will everyone have the same positive experience with solar panels if they stay with their current electricity retailer? Not even close. After my solar panel system was installed and it went online, I wanted to see what impact it would have if I just left things alone with my previous utility provider. Don't do this. When you get told the date of your system, you need to change your electricity provider. Don't waste time experimenting like I did. When I checked my statement from my former provider, the change was so minimal that I missed it at first. When I finally saw how minor it was, I initiated the move to my new retailer. The fourth reason was no limit. After asking some questions, I found out that the credit that I earned as a result of selling my generated electricity back to the grid could indeed be applied to all of my bill, not just certain parts. This was key, as I was initially concerned that all the other fees that were added onto my bill would somehow be exempt. There also has not been a limit or cap as to how many credits I can earn or how much electricity I can sell back to the grid after my system has been approved and installed. As a result of this, I don't feel that the potential of my system is being held back or not fully realized in some way. Number 5, micro generator. I found out that with my relatively small system, I would be classified as a micro generator. As a result of legislation in the province of Alberta, where I live, The government mandates that if I generate more electricity than I use, then once every 12 months, I legally have to be paid out by my retailer. That was all good news, but it got better and more enticing the more I looked into it. You see, my installation company gave me a list of electricity retailers that I could switch to in order to help me see a better profit from the electricity that I was generating through the solar panels and selling back to the grid. I'm very excited to tell you about this part of it because it really was a game changer when I saw what was possible through this whole area. My first year with this company has been great, and I expect the second year to be even better. There's more I want to say about them, but I'll get into more of that later. Reason number 6 was our greener outlook. As demand grows for electricity on our grid, with the emergence of electric cars and with our growing population, we know that we're doing our part to contribute to renewable energy. As I turn into the kind of dad who goes around shutting off lights behind people, I've realized that this new source of energy has impacted me in ways I didn't expect. Namely, the way that I think about the ways that we use power and energy around our house. I'm turning lights off around our house to save power, sure, but I also don't turn our air conditioner on as high, and we didn't turn it on as soon this year. I installed an electric heater for our garage. Outdoors, I've started to shift our gas-powered devices for lawn care over to electric, and I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with running out of gas, and it's also way quieter. Those are some of the things that need power, but then I find myself using power in other fun ways, like all the LED lights that I like to install around the house. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to look at 3 main things: where to put your solar panels, what our system looks like and some of the options we chose, and why you will probably want to change your electricity provider once your system's installed. Okay, so you're feeling pretty good about your reasons for moving ahead with a solar panel system. Here's what you should start thinking through and considering. First of all, it sounds really basic, but you should start assessing the sun and what options you have for placing your solar panels on your property, how it shines on your property during the year, or things that could get in the way, cast shadows, or drop debris on your brand new solar panel system. I'm going to give you an overview of the system that we've installed, and I'm also going to talk about our micro generator friendly retailer. How does using a retailer like Park Power affect our electricity bill? I'll let you know. Okay, so you're looking to get solar panels on, but where are you going to put them? Nearly all installations are going either on your roof or on the ground. In the Northern Hemisphere, it is ideal for solar panels to be installed on the south face of your roof of your house or garage, or on a different part of your property. Again, this is ideal for the sake of efficiency and maximizing the most exposure of sunlight per day. But if the positioning isn't quite possible, don't walk away from this. If your roof is orientated where your east-west portions would get all the panels due to available space, it can still be worthwhile, but your solar panel contractor's assessment should be able to show you an estimate on their efficiency and what you can expect for them to produce. But at this point in your planning, you are simply trying to think ahead and prepare for their arrival, which leads to my next point. Another thing that may affect when the sun reaches your panels are surrounding trees. This is the obstacle that most of us are going to face. First of all, do those trees pose a danger to your roof or house, and in turn your future solar panels? Do they need to be pruned or significantly cut back? Do they typically discharge sap or drop berries, leaves, needles, or otherwise cause a mess that could affect your panels? How do they cast shadows when the sunlight is trying to reach your potential solar panels, especially as the seasons change throughout the year? This is something that you might not have noticed too much in the past, but you're going to start noticing it in the future. While we're talking about shadows, are there neighboring structures that will cast shadows where you initially were intending on installing your solar panels? These are all questions that you'll need to answer for yourself, and the more that you think through these ahead of time, the less delays you'll have as you try to make decisions. Most residential projects, especially in cities, put them on the roof because of available space. If your roof doesn't seem like it will be the best option for solar panels, you can definitely consider a ground-mounted installation, which would be easier to monitor and check on. If you have a farm or acreage with a lot more open land available, then a ground-mounted system might make a lot more sense for you anyways. With our property, our neighbor has some tall trees in his backyard, and our backyard isn't overly big as it is. This, coupled with our south-facing roof and our relatively new shingles, made choosing to install the solar panels on our roof a quick and easy decision. So after sorting through options to consider when placing solar panels on your property, let's move ahead and take a closer look at the actual system we chose to go with, and some things for you to consider or be aware of. We have 22 Hanwha Q-cell panels, and I'll list the model number here. They were manufactured in Korea. We have 22 DC optimizers from Solar Edge, and we have one inverter from Solar Edge, which is actually mounted to a wall inside our basement, right beside our power panel. Another option for this system would have been to install 3 microinverters up on our roof out in the elements, but I was told that the single inverter installed at room temperature away from the elements would be more efficient since it's stored inside my house. That's why I paid a little bit extra and went that route. Another crucial part of any system is going to be your ability to monitor it. For ours, it's a Solar Edge app. It allows me to get a somewhat live view of how my panels are performing each day, which helps me to decide when I want to change between my rates on my bill. More on that later, but that is key. As I mentioned in the first episode, our system size is 9.35 kilowatts, and our annual production was estimated to be 10,830 kilowatt hours. And when I recently checked, my production for last year came in just under that, despite my system only being operational for just under 11 months last year. It's rated and sized to 110% of my annual usage from the previous year. It was a cheaper system than the system proposed to my dad, but according to the specifications, it was slated to have more powerful panels and cost about $2,000 less. So the takeaway there is that it's definitely worth pricing it out with different companies to see what types of systems they're offering for what price. Our system cost $21,700 as opposed to the system my dad was looking at putting on his house, which was $23,900. Speaking of which, let's talk a bit about my retailer. When I was getting my system, my installation company gave me a list of retailers that were good options for micro generators. The one that I chose has been great to deal with, and I've been so happy with them. From day one, they've been available and easy to communicate with. Their bills are laid out clearly, which is often not the case. But most importantly for me, they are solar friendly. Here's how. For starters, they have 2 rates for electricity, a high rate and a low rate. The way that it works is that when I produce more electricity over the course of the month than the electricity that I use, I automatically sell that electricity back to the grid. On the other hand, when I use more electricity than I produce, then I get charged. The plan is to figure out when you start producing more so that you can capitalize on generating the most credit when possible. Then to switch to the lower rate over the winter months so that you're paying less. There are 2 things that I really like about this. The first is that I get to choose when I want to switch between rates. I target the day that I want to switch between rates and submit a change request online. They will tell you that it could take several business days for the change to be made, but I've never had to wait long, thankfully. Once I submit the form for the change through my personal online portal, where I can also view my bills, they handle the rest of it on their end. The second reason is that I can look at my app and backdate my request for my rate change based on when my app tells me that my system had a spike in production, or if it dropped off. Another bonus is their payout policy. I've said before that according to the legislation in our province of Alberta, they have to pay me out legally every 12 months. But this company, Park Power, goes above and beyond that and will pay you out if your electricity bill credit stays above $200 for 2 months. This is huge, and it's really helped us to have a great start to the spring of this year. So between their policies, customer service, and solar-friendly initiatives, I'm happy to say that my experience with Park Power has been top-notch, and I don't doubt that yours would be too. The ability for us to be able to change between their high and low rates has been huge, and has helped us to more fully realize how we can actually make some money and recoup our costs on our solar panels. Welcome back. This episode is all about the installation process. But before I get into the reasons why I went with my installer and what went good and not so good with their installation, I want to hammer home an important point right at the beginning. Take pictures, take pictures, take pictures. Before anyone sets foot on your property, even to give you an estimate, take lots of pictures and then take some more. Pictures are so important to capture the existing conditions of your house before your potential contractor gets involved. Not just where you anticipate your panels being installed, the whole roof. So since you don't know exactly what the final system or the process will look like, make sure you capture the condition of your entire roof. Make sure you take pictures and capture the condition of everything below your roof, like your deck, shed, hot tub, garage, or other structures on your property. If you have a barbecue or a table or anything on the deck, make sure that is captured in pictures as well. I'm so glad that I took pictures of my roof before my contractor started working on it. Well, I think my wife did. And I'll get into the reasons why later on in this video. Be sure to also take pictures while they're working on your house, if at all possible. Where are they accessing the roof from? Are they leaning a ladder against the eaves trough or supporting them properly off the roof surface? Are they putting scaffolding on your deck and protecting your deck surface? Does any part of their process seem off or unsafe to you? Document it, and if you don't feel comfortable talking to the installers themselves, then talk to the project manager of their company. Keeping with the pictures theme, don't forget to take pictures inside of your house too. Take a picture of your power panel. Your potential solar contractor is going to need this anyway, so you might as well have it ready. Take pictures of the ceiling, wall, and floor around the panel as well. When your contractor ties your system into it, you will want to be able to show if any additional damage was caused, or if it was left differently than you expected. This is also a good time to gather your electricity bills from the past 12 months and either take pictures of them to show your recent electricity usage or scan them so that they're ready to share when needed. Make sure to block out personal information on these documents, at least until you've chosen a company to partner with, rather than spread your personal info to everyone who you're getting quotes from. Now that you have your own information ready and organized, start looking for and reaching out to several companies that are well reviewed and work in your area, and begin asking several of them for quotes. I would aim for your 5 best picks because they won't all have the same pricing or availability. Don't get too comfortable or exclusive with any company in the beginning for several reasons. First of all, you have no idea what they can offer you, like who their suppliers are, where their pricing is compared to their competitors, or a whole host of other things. Second, you don't know how busy they are or what their supply constraints are, so your top choice might not be able to fit you in for months. In the meantime, here are some things to keep in mind and even question them if they don't make it clear in their proposal to you. Do they self-perform all of their work, or do they hire a subcontractor? Generally, it's easier to ensure quality and accountability if the company's own employees are performing the work. Who are their partners and suppliers? After you sign the contract, will the solar panels have to be shipped, or are they in stock nearby? The company that I went with installs solar panels year-round, but not all of them do. So, how long is their installation window, and when do they next have availability? Now I'm going to talk about how I chose the company that I went with for installing my solar panels. When I chose this company, At the time, they had completed over 700 projects, despite being a relatively new company. At the time, they were also Western Canada's highest rated solar installation company. Their office staff patiently answered my many questions. They were good communicators, were on time for meetings, and replied to emails in a timely manner. I liked their thorough presentation and the products they were demonstrating to me. I liked the partnerships they had with companies that they worked with and had done work for. I liked that they installed solar panels year-round. I liked that they were willing and able to handle the application of one of the 2 grants that I qualified for. Now, what went good about the install? The company who I went with were willing to install the solar panels in the winter. Now, this turned out to be both a good and a bad thing, but this is the good list, so that's what we're going to focus on here. They cleared snow off of the roof on their own and removed ice as well. They were self-sufficient, they worked efficiently, and my system started up with little to no issue. What went not so good during the installation? Unfortunately, this is a longer list. About the time that I signed the contract and paid the first half of my bill, I learned that they wouldn't be able to install for about 3 months. I went from thinking that I was going to get my panels installed before the snow landed on my roof to realizing they would be doing this in the dead of winter. When they did show up to install my system, they were very hard on my roof. I found pieces of shingle down on and in the snow on the ground, and I picked them up and kept track of them. They carelessly cleared snow onto my barbecue. They carelessly broke clips for my Christmas lights, even though they were on the opposite side of the roof from where the panels were being installed. They charged me about $1,000 for an extra accessory called a rodent guard. To be fair, they were upfront about the pricing, nothing shady there. And although I believe the idea of a rodent guard is a good thing, because it keeps animals from seeking shelter and making homes under your panels, once I saw what it was and its seemingly lack of quality, and the short time it took them to install it, I called them out on it and what they were charging for it. I noticed that they had also cut down a plumbing vent on my roof because they thought it was in their way. Then they just left it and didn't fix it or mention it to me. I believe I saw it first with my drone, and once the snow had melted, I went up and fixed it myself. I noticed the panels were scratched and asked for them to be replaced. They also took insulation out of my floor joist space where the conduit came through the exterior wall and into my house, and didn't put the insulation back or put new insulation in or seal it properly. My post-install energy audit helped to flag this, thankfully. Down in my basement, they also brought a conduit through my drop ceiling in a very rough and amateur fashion. After talking with their office staff and showing them pictures, their installer gave us an apology. Well, not really. He actually just blamed his company for having him install the panels during the winter. But anyways, I came to an agreement with the company to take some money off of my bill, and we resolved it that way, as I was wanting to do most of the fixes myself. At the end of the day, the office staff were good communicators and fair to deal with, but this specific installer for this company, not so much. Needless to say, I wasn't 100% satisfied working with them overall, but I'm not looking to name or shame them at this time. Now, my advice to all of you watching this video is, again, to take tons and tons of pictures, and if you're able, buy a drone. Even a cheaper drone can be super helpful in monitoring the progress of the installation, checking out the roof before and after, and inspecting for any damage or concerns. I sincerely hope you can learn from what my experience was like on this one, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful. Welcome back. In this video, I want to go through a bunch of questions. Then at the end, I will talk a little bit more about something I touched on in the first video. Is it worth it for an elderly couple to put solar panels on their roof? The reasons for and against this are relevant to anyone considering solar panels, but especially those who aren't sure how much longer they will live in their current house. In the meantime, lots of these answers will be shorter, so if you want the longer answers, please check out my previous videos. Also, I'll be putting an indicator along the bottom to show just how long or short the answer to the question will be. So let's get into it. Do some people stick solar panels on the roof just so they can have the appearance of being concerned for the environment, and that's it? This may seem like a silly question, but yes, I've seen this happen. But then there are those of us who actually want to ease our electricity usage, maximize the potential of our solar panels, and even see a monetary return on our investment. Why don't contractors offer to cover my whole roof with solar panels, regardless of its size? The contractors are restricted by local regulations, specifically by the amount of electricity the panels will produce versus how much electricity you've used on average over the past 12 months. How big can my solar panel system be? Like I just mentioned, this is determined by the current regulations in your area. For me, the size of my system output could only be about 110% of my usage over the past year, but I've heard that this might now be reduced to 100% of your usage for new applications. Should I have my roof inspected before I install solar panels? If you don't feel qualified to inspect your roof, then yes, I suggest that you get a third party to inspect it for you. What should I have ready before my first meeting with my solar panel contractor? Knowledge about the condition and age of your roof, a picture of your existing power panel, your electricity bills from the past 12 months, and an idea whether you will purchase or finance this project. Will the credit that I earn on my solar panels be enough to be noticeable? It definitely will if you do it right, but also if you pick the right utility provider who pays you more for the green energy your panels produce. Be sure to switch between the high and low electricity rates throughout the year. Do I have to change utility providers? No, you don't have to, but if your current provider doesn't pay you more for your exported electricity from your solar panels, then you really should switch to a company like Park Power. Otherwise, it will take much longer for your solar panels to pay for themselves. Why should I consider changing electricity providers? You will really benefit from being with a retailer who pays you more for your green electricity. These retailers will have a high rate and a low rate, allowing you to choose when you think you will be producing more energy than you use and selling it at the high rate, or switching to the low rate during the winter months when you are using more than you produce. With Park Power, I can also backdate this switch according to my solar panels production, as long as my bill hasn't been determined yet. They will also automatically pay me out if my account is carrying a large balance, unless I tell them to keep it as a bill credit for the winter months. Can bill credits apply to more than just your electricity line item on your bill? With my utility provider, Park Power, any money that I earn from the electricity generated by my solar panels can go towards any and all fees on my bill. Will solar panels generate power all year or just in the summer? They will generate power all year, but especially from early spring to mid-fall. Over the winter, they will help reduce your electricity usage, but you will likely be back to buying electricity from the grid. Are the panels durable enough? Yes, most modules sold in Canada are rated for a golf ball sized piece of hail traveling at 160 kilometers per hour, 90 degrees to the panel. Most installations are installed at an angle, so the expectation is that the hail would likely glance off of it, as opposed to being a direct hit. What is the lifespan of solar panels, and how long do they produce electricity for? Mine are expected to produce up to and beyond 40 years. At one point, I was told that they would still produce at least 80% of their original electrical capacity 40 years down the road, but I haven't found paperwork to back up this claim, so I guess we'll see. What is the warranty like? My system has several different warranties, such as a 5-year labor replacement warranty, a 5-year maintenance warranty, a 12-year monitoring warranty, a 12-year inverter parts warranty, a 25-year module output warranty, a 25-year rooftop component warranty. But ensure that you ask your solar panel contractor what their different warranties cover. Are loans or grants available? Usually yes, but it's always changing, so do your research and ask around. Your solar panel installer should have a good idea of this as well. Also, look at whether you are giving anything up by accepting these grants. Foreshadowing. How were we convinced and why did we decide to get solar panels? We have more reasons than this, but our top reasons were: we received 2 grants that were available to us totaling $8,400. That was a big nudge. Our roof was ready and south facing. We confirmed that the credits earned could indeed be applied to our whole power bill. We had some money saved up, and this seemed like a good investment for us that would both ease monthly expenses and provide a decent return as well. Where should I put my solar panels? On the south face of your roof or property, for those of us in the northern hemisphere, as long as the view of the sun is clear. If you have the space to put it down on the ground, then you don't have to remove them when your roof needs to be replaced, and you can monitor and clean them easier. What do I need to know before, during, and after the install? Well, before, the condition of your roof, available space in your electrical panel, and your electricity usage over the past year, and take pre-job photos. During, document everything with many more pictures, ask questions if things don't look right or if damage is being done to your property, and document any delays. After, test and keep an eye on your live stream view through the internet or an app to make sure it is staying on and producing electricity every day. Pay extra attention to your new power bill to make sure that you are getting paid a higher rate for the electricity that you produce. When are solar panels typically installed? Don't assume that they install solar panels year-round. This will depend on the company. Some will do it year-round within reason, some will only do it for part of the year. When will my solar contractor be able to fit in my install? I only put this question in as a reminder for you. Make sure you ask this before you sign the contract so you aren't surprised by the answer after you sign. Where are my solar panels coming from? Ask if they are in a warehouse locally or on the other side of the country or across the ocean. I know that sometimes a solar panel company will install the racking that supports the solar panels on your roof and then have to wait months for the panels to arrive. Do they self-perform their work? This is important to ask. Don't just assume that they will complete your project from start to finish with their own employees exclusively. Why did I go with my installer? They were good communicators, they had a thorough presentation, they handled the local grant application for me, they were Western Canada's highest rated at the time via Google reviews, and I liked their partnerships and suppliers. What went good with my install? The company was willing to install during the winter, they cleared the snow off of the roof themselves, and the system started up as planned. What went bad? Well, the date given to me for the install was delayed. They were very hard on my roof. They broke clips and caused my Christmas lights to fall, and there were a lot of little things left undone or unfinished. If I had the chance to do this all over again, would I? Yes, I would absolutely get solar panels again, but I would aim to have them installed as soon as the snow is off my roof in the early spring. I would also take a harder look at other local companies too. What is the number one accessory you would recommend before getting solar panels installed on your roof? A drone, preferably from DJI. They have quality amateur drones that can help you inspect your roof beforehand, inspect the installation as it happens, and inspect and keep an eye on your finished product. Not everybody likes the look of solar panels on their roof, so will they decrease my property value? They are in fact more likely, on average, to increase it and become another feature to make your house more attractive to prospective buyers. Solar panels are expensive to install, but is the technology there yet? Not only are the panels getting better and more efficient, but the inverters have the potential to be upgraded over time. Do you need expensive batteries on top of the expensive solar panels in order for them to work effectively? While batteries could be helpful during a power outage or during expensive jumps in electricity rates, no, they're not necessary. I don't have batteries installed yet, and I'm still glad I have solar panels. Are panels something that you can set and forget? You can do that, but similar to most things, the cleaner they are, the better they will run. If you notice that they're dirty, shoot some water up at them and rinse them off. If you're able to clear snow off of them sometimes during the winter, that will help them work a little bit more efficiently. Make sure you keep checking in regularly with how they are producing so that you can notice if something fails or goes wrong. Speaking of snow, does it really matter if I clear snow off of my solar panels in the winter? I've been told repeatedly that it doesn't matter, but I wanted to test it out for myself. I understand why most people don't do this, as it's a comfort level and a risk versus reward debate. Realizing that the panels won't produce as much in the winter with the less intense sun rays, I set aside some time to test it out. I set up an aluminum A-frame ladder just out from the roof so the snow could pass between the roof edge and me. I bought a long aluminum extension pole and fastened a broom to it. The broom is actually for finishing concrete, but I just wanted something soft that had some width to it so that I wouldn't scratch my panels. I was able to reach and clear about 80% of my panels off. It did make a difference, but the difference is mainly only noticeable because of it being a larger jump between numbers of smaller increments. Here's what I mean by that. In the height of summer, my solar panels can produce around 60 kilowatt hours of power. That is my high point. On this winter day in January, I went from producing 75 watt hours the day before I cleared them to producing 539 watt hours when I started clearing them around 2:15 in the afternoon, to producing 4 to 5 kilowatt hours on average over the next 3 days, and averaging 7 kilowatt hours over the next 30 days. Yes, there are more factors like the intensity of the solar rays potentially picking up as the month went on, but especially in consideration of the definitive jump in production during the afternoon that I cleared them, you can see that even though production was low, it was still a noticeable jump. How much will it cost? This is going to depend on a lot of factors, but where I live, I haven't seen a quote yet for an average size system be less than $20,000. Pre-COVID, I've read that the average cost for solar panels was closer to $1.60 per watt, and now it seems higher than $2 per watt. What does our system look like? We have a 22 panel, 9.35 kilowatt system producing an estimated 10,830 kilowatt hours per year. How much would it produce? I can't speak for your system, but this past year, my solar panel system was exporting electricity over and above what we use in our home for about 8 months of the year and helping to reduce our usage for the other 4 months. Would solar panels be the best investment for an elderly couple or people who will be moving soon? First, I'm going to tell you the situations where I would hesitate to do it. If you know you will be moving out of your house in less than 3 years, or if you have an older roof, or if you live in an area where you don't feel that people would value or pay more for a property that has solar panels installed on it, or if your solar panels are being viewed as a short-term investment. Really, there's no guarantee, as rates, regulations, and allowances can change over time. However, you could consider it if you can afford it without incurring a fee to end an investment early, or if you have the cash, or if your roof is new, or if it has been inspected and found to have 15 plus years of life left on it, or if you want to see a reduction in electricity costs throughout the year, or if you're able to change your electricity provider to someone like Park Power. And if you or a trusted family member can remember to change your electricity rate twice a year between high and low so that you can earn the most money when you are exporting power and pay the least money when you are importing it. Like I said, these reasons are important enough for most of us to ponder, but especially those who are less likely to be living in their house for a substantial amount of time. How long do they take to pay for themselves? I'm going to be doing a deep dive on this in the next episode. The estimate I was given before I signed my contract was 3 to 5 years, but we'll see. I will also compare how long they take to pay off with or without the grants that I qualified for. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Hi, welcome back. This episode is all about the financial side of this solar panel endeavor. I've spent a lot of time compiling data from my first 19 Park Power invoices and twice that number of invoices from my previous power retailer. So first I had to figure out how I was going to compare the two. I started with my Park Power invoices and found that they ran from May 2022 through until November 2023. So I went back through my invoices from my previous retailer and compared the most recent cycle of 19 invoices that also went between May and November, about 19 months worth. Yes, there are a lot of factors that can affect comparing from one year to the next, including how cold or hot the temperature gets outside, which in turn can cause your furnace or air conditioner to kick in, or how much cloud cover in the sunnier summer months. So yes, I recognize all of that. It's tough to compare year to year, but hey, we have to start somewhere. Once again, to give some context, we live in northern Alberta, Canada, in the capital city of Edmonton. But even though we're a winter city, we are also a sunny city. We're actually one of the sunniest cities in Canada, which makes us a great location for solar panels. We live in a 1,200 square foot bi-level single dwelling house. Our solar panel system is made up of 22 panels and is 9.35 kilowatts in size. In 2022, it cost us $21,700 to install. So before I got solar panels, what did my electricity bill look like? Well, in that time period that I mentioned, we spent $1,132.34 just on electricity charges. Then on top of that, we spent $1,515 on fees added to those charges on the same bill. So in total, we spent $2,647 over that time period. Now, more recently with Park Power, we spent $1,715 just on electricity charges, $1,276 on fees added to those charges on the same bill, and $2,992 on bill totals over that period. And we earned $4,078 from our solar panels feeding electricity back into the grid, 15,505 kilowatt hours worth. I didn't just have $4,000 flowing back into my bank account. It was a mix of money applied to our bill and money that transferred into our account. In 2022, we received 2 refunds due to accumulated credit on our account from Park Power, totaling $929. In 2023, we received 1 refund for $636, which could have easily been 2 refunds totaling over $1,000 if I hadn't asked them to keep the second refund as a credit on my account. So that means that within the first 2 years of solar panels, I've averaged about $1,000 of liquid cash returns if I'm willing to pay 3 small power bills in the winter months. For 2022, those bills were $75, $62, and $76. For all of you keen budgeters out there, are you seeing what this does to help the monthly budget and bill planning? We have paid 3 smaller power bills in all of 2022, and we won't pay any in 2023 because I accepted a payment less than $1,000 to carry me through the winter. Meaning, I have only paid money to Park Power 3 times over the course of nearly 20 months. I knew the panels were helping, but even I was surprised by that stat. So let's get back to what the panels have earned for me and money they have saved. They have generated a combined earning and savings of $4,078 over the course of 19 months. So if we take that $4,078 and divide by 19, we get a monthly average of $214. And if we divide our total cost of $21,700 by our monthly average, we come out with 101 months, or 8 years and 5 months, without factoring in any grant money. But the grants that we did qualify for were $3,400 and $5,000 respectively, totaling $8,400. So if we subtract our grants from the total cost of our system, we are left with $13,300. And when I divide that by $214, I get 62 months, or 5 years and 2 months. I was initially told that it would take 3 to 5 years for these solar panels to pay for themselves. And this is at the high end of that, but I still feel pretty good about it. Breaking all of this down sure opened my eyes and helped me to see how this is worthwhile from the dollars and cents perspective. I really hope this was helpful to you as well. And just remember, this is just the start of the financial benefits. For us, it's a big one to get these panels to pay for themselves, but this means that after that happens, our energy rates will feel even more sustainable as we continue to draw a lot less power from the grid. On the next episode, I'm going to talk about one of the grants I received, what I missed by accepting it, and why I wish I actually never got it in the first place. So make sure you like and subscribe to make sure that you see it, and let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. See you soon. Welcome to episode 7. One of the biggest reasons that really encouraged us to go ahead with our solar panel system were the 2 grants that paid for over a third of our system. But now, I wish we would have walked away from one of them. At the time, it was a no-brainer. Hey, here's some free money from the government that you happen to qualify for to help entice you to install solar panels, and in turn, draw less power from the electrical grid. Of the 2 grants that we received, the federal one from the Government of Canada was a little more involved because we had to apply for it and get pre- and post-home energy audits from a choice of specified auditors. The second grant was a local one from the City of Edmonton, and it was easier to get. So easy that my solar panel installer offered to apply for this grant on our behalf, which I thought was great and convenient. And then they deducted it from our bill before we made our final payment. It was great, but sure enough, it has recently proven to be too good to be true. I very recently found out that when I accepted the money from the City of Edmonton grant, the city then believed that I gave up my rights to my environmental attributes of my own solar panels. I certainly didn't know anything about this back then. The only reason I even found out about it recently was due to my application for carbon credits through a company called Rewatt Power. You see, Rewatt Power is like a retailer for carbon credits. They verify how much you are producing and help you realize the benefit to the environment in the form of carbon credits. After they show you how much you have earned, they take a cut of your profits. They've been great to work with, and I have only good things to say about them. I set up an account with them earlier this year, and things seemed to be going fine. I added the details of my solar panel system to their program and could see how my system was performing through the portal on their website. By allowing them to link up with my solar panels, this allowed them to see exactly how much my solar panels were producing without me having to send a report to them with some sort of proof. I recently started asking them about how many carbon credits I might see from my solar panel system this year and when they would issue a payout. And that's when I started to earn an ugly truth. Rewatt had been waiting for the City of Edmonton to decide what to do with the environmental attributes that they had obtained from me and others in return for doling out all these grants. Other municipalities have had contracts that were worded similarly, but have decided to return the rights to the homeowner, but not Edmonton. Not for the good of the new owners of the solar panel systems, but for their own moral benefit, believing that you shouldn't be able to sell carbon credits that your solar panels generate to larger producers who need to purchase them as a form of offsetting their own carbon emissions. When I signed for this grant, I didn't see this clause, but even if I had, I wouldn't have had any idea what it meant or referred to, not to mention that my installation company filed the application on my behalf, so I really didn't have much of a chance here. Now, I'm trying to see if there's any way that I can get out of this by paying the grant money back to the City of Edmonton. And I'm definitely warning others not to accept this grant if they're able to. It's simply not worth it. This past year, my system could have generated around 6 carbon credits, which doesn't sound like much until you realize that each one of those credits, at least this year, is expected to sell in the range of $60 to $63 each. After Rewatt takes their healthy fee off the top of 25%, I would have ended up with around $280 this year. Yes, their fee is a lot, but without them, I wouldn't have had the opportunity for the other 75% that's left. So if I hadn't accepted this grant, I would have been on track to have earned enough from the carbon credits to pay for the grant in about 12 years. After those 12 years, it would then be a bit of extra income each year to help pay for our power bill over the winter months. The other interesting thing that I've learned about carbon credits is that they aren't all created or valued equally. Think of them as different levels. These particular carbon credits that would have been generated off of my solar panels would be worth more because they were based off of solid, verifiable information instead of projections or estimates. So what now? Well, again, if you're able to avoid it, don't take the City of Edmonton's money from this grant. Even though other municipalities have worded their contracts for their grants in similar ways and have changed their mind to return the rights to the homeowners, the city so far is sticking with their plan, as although they may think it's laid out clearly to the average homeowner, it's anything but clear. I'm continuing to dialogue with the city to see if there's any way that I can fully return this grant money in exchange for my own environmental attributes of my own solar panel system, but so far they have no desire to honor that request. So let me know what you think of the City of Edmonton's stance on this and how it makes you feel. Have you had similar experiences where you live? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day.